It was December 22nd when Mara's phone buzzed with the message that split her world clean in half. "Hey, sweetie. We're keeping it just us this year. Hope you understand. Merry Christmas, just us." 2 words wrapped in ribbons of politeness and the ache of exile. What does a woman owe to a family that edits her out of her own story? How many times can she forgive people who never notice her absence? If silence is a gift, why does it feel like punishment? And when love becomes conditional, is it still love? Or a contract she never signed? She sits at her desk in a half-empty office, the hum of computers replacing carols. Snow presses against the window, soft but uninvited. Like her, the walk to her car feels longer than usual. The city is quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. She doesn't cry. She doesn't curse. She just listens to her boots crunch against the snow, like a metronome counting down to something she hasn't decided yet. The streets glimmer with Christmas warmth that doesn't belong to her anymore. She sits in her car, engine idling, heat humming low. The radio plays a Christmas song her mother used to hum while baking. She turns it off. The silence feels cleaner. In the glove compartment, a folded legal envelope peeks out. The Ellison estate. She rests her hand on it, thumb tracing the corner like a secret waiting to wake. That night, Mara doesn't call anyone. She microwaves soup, lights a candle, and eats at her small kitchen table. There's peace in the minimal. The kind that hurts but heals. Her father's framed photo sits nearby, his smile soft and knowing. She lifts her glass. "Guess it's just us," she whispers. Before bed, she writes a single sentence in her journal. "Next year, I'll stop asking to be chosen." Then under it, smaller letters. "Maybe I'll choose myself." She closes the book, turns off the light, and lets the dark hold her without judgment. The morning after, Mara wakes before sunrise. The quiet feels cleaner now, like the air after a storm. She makes coffee without checking her phone. The steam curls upward, soft and aimless, the way her life has felt for years. Memories come uninvited, the kind that wear holiday sweaters and cut too deep to forget. She wonders when love started feeling like a test she was always meant to fail. In her mind, she's 8 again. Her mother's house smells like cinnamon and control. Gabe teases her about the lopsided star she made for the tree, and Elaine laughs like it's harmless. But it isn't. Little girls remember laughter that sounds like judgment. Even now, she can feel the way her chest tightened, the way she promised herself to be perfect next time. Years later, college break. The house feels smaller, meaner somehow. Mara sits at the dinner table, trying to share stories from her classes. Gabe interrupts with a joke about her charity degree, and Elaine changes the topic to Gabe's new promotion. Mara laughs along, like she's supposed to. Her fork stays still the entire meal. Love can look like this too. Polite, performative, perfectly poisonous. The last Christmas before her father died, he pulled her aside, pressed a small wrapped box into her hand, said, "For later." She didn't open it until after the funeral. Inside, a bracelet engraved with his initials, and a note. "Don't let them take everything, Mara." She's been trying to understand what he meant ever since. Back in the present, Mara opens her jewelry drawer. The bracelet gleams faintly under the lamplight, steady and sure. She slips it onto her wrist, not as decoration, but armor. Whatever keeping it just us means, she decides it will no longer include her obedience. The day stretches ahead like a blank page, and for the first time, she wants to write something new on it. By Monday, the snow had thickened, muted, relentless. Mara arrived early at the law office, the kind of early that means you don't want to be seen arriving. The building felt colder than usual, like even the heat was tired of pretending. She opened the Ellison estate file, page by page, clause by clause. Somewhere between signatures and dates, she realized she held the power they always believed she didn't have. And that terrified her almost as much as it thrilled her. Elaine and Gabe were due to meet her at noon to finalize their father's will. She rehearsed their voices in her head. The clipped tone of her mother, the lazy arrogance in Gabe's laugh. She promised herself she would be calm, professional, untouched. But old wounds have sharp memories, and hers never forgot their way home. They arrived fashionably late, Elaine in her cashmere coat, Gabe with a phone still in hand. "You look tired," Elaine said instead of hello. Mara smiled, the kind that doesn't reach her eyes, and motioned for them to sit. As they did, she felt her pulse slow, like the air itself was bracing for truth. Some families break loudly. Hers did it politely. Elaine skimmed the document, adjusting her reading glasses like they were armor. "Your father always wanted things fair," she said softly, which sounded more like a warning than a wish. Gabe chimed in, smirking. "Yeah, fair. Just don't go getting sentimental, Mara. You know how you get." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. Fair had already found a new definition in her hands. After they left, the room stayed heavy with the scent of their perfume and ego. Mara gathered the signed documents, slipped them neatly into the folder, and exhaled for the first time all day. She didn't feel victorious, just awake. For the first time, she understood her father's note. Not as advice, but as permission. She turned off the lights, left the office key on the desk, and stepped into the falling snow. The next morning, the office lights felt harsher. The meeting had gone smoothly, by every polite definition. No raised voices, no tears, no honesty. But Mara's silence had turned into something with teeth. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Don't let them take everything." Maybe he didn't just mean the inheritance. Maybe he meant her spirit, the part I'd chipped away at with every Christmas, every correction, every sigh of disappointment. By noon, the emails had started. Elaine wanted clarification on distribution clauses. Gabe wanted expediency. Their politeness pressed against her inbox like a bruise. She typed replies short enough to sting. "All allocations are per the will. Nothing more to discuss." The truth was sharper than any argument. She wasn't asking permission anymore. By evening, Elaine called. "I think your father wanted us to talk through this together," she said, voice dripping with control disguised as care. Mara listened quietly. Then, with a steadiness that surprised even her, she answered, "Dad wanted fairness, not forgiveness." The silence that followed was long, broken only by Elaine's small, wounded exhale. For once, Mara didn't fill it. Later, she sat with Leo at the office, papers spread across the table. He watched her sort them, quiet, careful. "You don't owe them fairness," he said softly. "You owe yourself peace." She met his eyes for a moment, the weight of unspoken gratitude between them. "Peace," she murmured. "I've never been very good at earning that." He smiled, faint and kind. "Then maybe stop earning it. Just take it." When she finally walked home, the cold bit through her gloves, but she didn't flinch. Every step felt deliberate, own. Somewhere between grief and defiance, she realized she'd stopped waiting for her family to understand her worth. Maybe that was the point. They weren't supposed to. Some things are meant to stay misunderstood. Some power is meant to stay quiet. The next day, the world woke up covered in white silence. Mara brewed her coffee slowly, the way her father used to, measured, patient. She looked over the estate forms one last time, tracing the signatures with her fingertip. Each line carried history, hierarchy, and finally, choice. For the first time, her name wasn't just on paper. It meant something. She wasn't reacting anymore. She was deciding. At the office, she reviewed the trust structures one last time. Her father's estate was clear, a family inheritance divided equally. But equality, she'd learned, didn't always mean fairness. For years, she'd given them her patience, her silence, her seat at the table. Maybe this, her final signature, was how she reclaimed what they never noticed they'd taken. She looked at the empty line beside her name and smiled. Leo entered quietly, setting down 2 coffees. "Long day?" he asked. She nodded, not looking up. "Long year," she replied. He sat across from her, watching her rewrite line items and add her father's foundation's name beside her own. "You're changing it?" he asked softly. She nodded again. "I'm honoring what he meant, not just what he wrote." In the silence that followed, he understood everything. That night, she drafted the letter, not to her mother, not to Gabe, to herself. "You did enough," it began. "You don't have to prove worth to those who never tried to see it." The words came easier than she expected. When she finished, she folded the paper and slipped it into her father's old watch box. It wasn't revenge she felt, just release. Before leaving the office for the holidays, Mara sealed the final envelope. Inside was everything they expected, and nothing they'd understand. The paperwork was fair. The choice was hers. She looked out at the falling snow and thought of her father's words again, hearing them clearly now. "Don't let them take everything." She smiled faintly. They never would again. Christmas Eve arrived wrapped in silence. No phone calls, no invitations. Just the hum of the radiator and the whisper of falling snow. Mara didn't dress up, didn't cook, didn't wait. She simply existed, in peace, in truth, in her own small apartment where no one demanded a smile. Outside, families gathered under lights and laughter. Inside, she discovered something quieter and somehow more whole. Across town, Elaine's living room glimmered like a magazine spread. Silver garland, crystal bowls, wine glasses clinking. Gabe bragged about his latest deal. Elaine smiled the same smile she'd always worn, the one that hid more than it revealed. For a moment, she glanced toward the empty chair at the end of the table, and something flickered behind her eyes. Regret, maybe, but it passed. Appearances had always been easier than apologies. While they dined, Mara opened her laptop. The final document glowed on the screen. Ellison Estate, executed and filed. With one click, everything her father built was now distributed, just as she intended, equal in name, but different in meaning. She'd reserved one part, small but powerful, for a foundation in his name, a legacy built on something her family never understood. Compassion without conditions. After the email confirmation arrived, she leaned back in her chair, exhaling deeply. No champagne, no applause. Just quiet victory. She imagined her father somewhere between memory and air, smiling at her restraint. Wow. For years, she mistook silence for weakness. Tonight, she understood, it was strength. The kind that doesn't need witnesses. Midnight. Snow thickened outside, blurring the city into silence. Mara stepped onto her balcony, wrapped in a blanket, tea cooling in her hand. Below, the streets were empty, the world wiped clean. She smiled, faint but certain. This was her first Christmas alone. And for once, she wasn't missing. It was them who were. Christmas morning arrived without noise. No ringing phone, no well-meaning messages wrapped in guilt, just light, soft and forgiving, spilling through her curtains. Mara sat in bed, the stillness thick around her. For the first time in years, she didn't feel forgotten. She felt free. It's strange how peace can sound like absence, and how absence can finally sound like home. She walked to her desk, powered on her laptop, and opened her email. The family group chat still existed. Bright icons, fake cheer. Her fingers hovered for a long moment before she typed. "You said it was just you." "I made sure it is." No anger, no explanation. Just truth, wrapped in precision. Then she hit send and felt her heartbeat slow into something steady. Something hers. Across town, Elaine read the message at the breakfast table, her fork frozen mid-air. Gabe looked over her shoulder, face pale with disbelief. "What does she mean?" he asked. Elaine didn't answer. The silence between them said everything. For the first time, they realized they weren't at the center of the story anymore, and they never would be again. Mara didn't wait for a reply. She packed a small overnight bag, slipped on her boots, and stepped into the white morning. The air bit her cheeks, but she welcomed it. The town was still sleeping, snow smoothing every sharp edge. Each breath she took felt like erasing something. Expectations, guilt, the weight of being the good one. She wasn't the good one anymore. She was just real. By afternoon, she reached the lake on the edge of town. Frozen, endless, silent. She stood there for a long time, watching the snow drift over the surface like whispers from a life she no longer owed anyone. She smiled, whispered to the wind, "Merry Christmas, Dad." Then she turned and walked away, leaving only one set of footprints leading toward a horizon that finally belonged to her.